2020 to order. It is 7 o'clock. We will start with our disclaimer of our virtual meeting of pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Northborough School Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of public and or parties with the right or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the district website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen or watch the meeting may do so in the following manner: live streaming, educational channel, Verizon channel 29, Charter channel 194. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the district website an audio or video recording, transcript, and other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So that opens our open meeting, and I would ask for a motion to go into executive session.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Joan.
I move that we go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining due to the chair's determination that a discussion regarding this matter in an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the position of the committee with the intent to return to open meeting.
I second the motion.
All right, Kelly seconds. We'll do a roll call vote. Joan?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Keith?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
And I say yes. We are now going to move into executive session with intent to return to open session. Great, thank you. Well, everybody, welcome back to our open session. We've just came out of executive session. We're back into open session. I read the disclaimer before our first meeting. I don't think I need to read it again because we're in the same meeting, technically. So we're going to go straight into, we have our first agenda item is a public hearing on school choice.
So it's an annual requirement of the school committee to hold a public hearing on school choice. And just for the viewing audience, if people would like to provide us with any questions around the school choice hearing, there's a link here that people can type in the URL, and also on the web page and the main district web page under quick links, this link is available as well. So the interdistrict school choice program under Mass General Law, Chapter 76, Section 12B, has been in place in the Commonwealth since 1991. School choice allows parents or guardians to enroll his or her child in a school district other than the district in which the child lives. And there's a presumption that all school committees will participate in school choice unless they withdraw from school choice. Again, a receiving district can withdraw from school choice only if the school committee holds a public hearing on this issue and then votes to withdraw from the school choice program prior to June 1st. This evening's public hearing is to hear the recommendations of the superintendent around school choice. A timely decision and vote by the school committee to withdraw from school choice is effective only for the following school year. The school choice tuition for students in a regular education program is $5,000 per student. For students attending half-day kindergarten, tuition is $2,500 per student. As a frame of reference, the FY18 per pupil expenditure for the Northborough Public Schools was $17,650. When determining capacity for admission of school choice students by June 1st for the upcoming year, school committees may specify the schools and grades in which seats are available for non-resident students. Therefore, it is permissible for our school committee to limit the admission of non-resident students through school choice to specific grades, programs, and schools. When admitting school choice students under General Law, Chapter 76, 12B, school districts may not consider or discriminate based on race, color, religious creed, national origin, sex, gender, identity, age, sexual orientation, ancestry, athletic performance, physical handicap, special need, academic performance, or proficiency in English language. If the number of applicants exceeds the number of seats available, the selection of students must be on a random basis. The selection process must take place prior to July 1, and again, assuming there are seats available, prior to November 1st. Once students are selected, the receiving school district must notify the sending districts of the acceptance of such students, and neither the sending nor the receiving school district may disclose publicly the identities of students participating in school choice. It is my recommendation to the Northborough School Committee to withdraw from the school choice program for the 2021 academic year for the following reasons. The $5,000 per pupil tuition is approximately $12,650 less than the Northborough per pupil expenditure. Enrollments are at or close to the school committee class size policy for FY21. And lastly, the COVID-19 health situation will have a financial impact on the district's FY 2021 budget. And at this time, there are too many unknown variables to open up grade levels or schools for school choice. And those are the reasons why I make a recommendation for the school committee to withdraw from the school choice program.
Great, thank you. So now we open it up to the public. Do we have a link for those questions, or were there any submitted?
There are no links at this, no questions at this time. I'm not sure if we want to wait a minute to see if questions do arrive.
We may want to give the audience a chance to participate. So
I don't think we have any attendees besides panelists.
Is there
right
an
now.
audience?
yeah, can we see attendees?
There are 0 attendees at this time.
Then I guess that answers our question. There's 0 attendees at this time. So we'll go ahead and close the public hearing with no audience members in the audience, and move on to action on the minutes.
So that closes our public hearing, and
Can we vote on it now then, or is that?
It's further down on the agenda.
Okay.
The school choice vote is further down on the agenda.
That's what I.
So we're going to move on to action on the minutes. So we have the open meeting minutes of April 1st.
I'll move to accept the open meeting minutes of the Northborough School Committee virtual meeting on Wednesday, April 1st, 2020.
Seconded.
60 seconds. Any discussion on the meeting minutes? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote, as that's the best way for us to do this in a virtual setting. So I will go Joan. If she's unfrozen, she's frozen on me. Maybe we'll roll back around.
Frozen. I'll call her.
And then Keith,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
and then we'll see if we can get Joan back on the line.
Hey, Joan.
She's muted. I see her screen, but she's muted on her.
Okay, we're just roll calling vote.
For minutes.
Last, it's a delay. Okay. If you turn the volume down on your computer. Okay. Okay, so we just did a roll call for approval on the minutes. Your name.
All right, there we go.
Joan
Oh, you're
French,
unmuted
yes.
now. There you are. Hello. All right, great. So the motion passes for the meeting minutes. Thank you. So next we can go ahead and move on to the welcome of Mary Coakley, the Peaslee School Principal.
So we are very fortunate to have Dr. Mary Coakley join the Peaslee School. I will say that her arrival has been extraordinary for many reasons. She's an extraordinary hire. She's going to be an extraordinary principal, but also arriving as a principal in a new school is difficult and challenging on a typical year. But in a pandemic, it's equally, or it's actually tremendously more challenging. So I just want to welcome Mary, and she's done a tremendous job navigating Peaslee School and helping them through some difficult times over the past couple of weeks. And I just give Mary a second to introduce herself and say welcome.
Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. I'll make sure I find out where I am over here. Can you hear me now?
We
Yes.
can.
Okay. Well, it has been interesting, but I will say, I think the greatest part of it is I automatically had a district level team that was very willing to accept me and make me a huge part of that decision making and planning for what was really a difficult entry for me as far as just landing. And I think the greatest thing is just if I had not done it in this way, it probably would have taken me months to learn who they were and to really get a chance to share ideas and become part of the team. But that happened almost overnight. So I really appreciate just them for embracing me, and as well as the Peaslee staff. They were really ready to be led, and for me to really get in there and try some innovative things with them, which included, some outreach, really connecting with students who we had maybe thought were not participating in the way that we wanted to. And so reaching out and really trying to make it a positive experience has really been a common thread. So, I know it's been difficult, but, there's no doubt in my mind I'm in the right place, and I appreciate being part of the community.
Great. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you and welcome. We look forward to meeting you in person.
So I also want to acknowledge Rhoda Webb. So Rhoda, prior to Mary's arrival, really led Peaslee School and did a tremendous job on a very difficult time. So thank you, Rhoda, for your leadership as well.
Thank you. Great. So I guess moving on, we have the COVID-19 health situation on the agenda.
So from our combined meeting, last week's combined meeting, where each director provided significant updates for their areas, not much has changed in terms of new information. However, I would like to provide an opportunity for Becky Pellegrino to go over the Northborough finances, specifically around food services, kindergarten, and some of the savings that we're seeing. So I'm actually going to have Becky share her presentation with the committee. And then after Becky presents, answer any questions that you have for any of the other directors here tonight. So Becky, I'm going to share my screen, or have you share your screen.
And I will give back control.
Thank you.
sorry. So I know at last week's combined meeting, I gave an overview of a few of the district-wide initiatives that are going on, but tonight I wanted to present some that are specific to Northborough as it relates to the COVID-19 closure. So we did have some unanticipated expenses due to the closure, but they were very minimal. We had some cleaning and nursing supplies that were purchased right before we closed schools. We purchased a couple of disinfectant machines, gloves, face masks, hand sanitizers. And then we also purchased technology, and this is the technology that's being used to allow some of our staff to work remotely while we're not able to get into the buildings. And those technology purchases included scanners, the DocuSign that you've all probably become familiar with over the past month or so, and then also some VPN licenses that again allowed staff to be able to access their files. We also foresee some potential expenses with the technology being distributed throughout the district. We are anticipating potential technology replacement and or repair costs. And also depending on our return to school, we may be purchasing masks, gloves, and thermometers. Our custodians have been cleared to return to school, and part of that process will be making sure that they are screened for temperatures. So the thermometers will come in handy, and I believe that Mary Ellen has already purchased some of those supplies or is anticipating receipt of those supplies shortly. In terms of our savings, we really took a look at our budget and thought about some of those areas where we could expect to see some recoupment or some lower expenditures. As you can imagine, with the buildings not being as active as they normally are at this time of year, oh, sorry, went too far. We are seeing some savings where it comes to electricity and also heating. At the middle school, we also anticipate savings for the athletic transportation since the spring sports will not be running. Also on the transportation front, we did sign the agreement, thank you, Sue, with NRT for the reduced costs. When I spoke with the committee last week, I mentioned it was 80% with the potential of going down to 78%, and it did reduce down to 78%. So we are anticipating about $33,000 in savings just off of that memorandum of agreement. And then we also had other transportation, and those were things that unfortunately, like the music, the all-town band, some of those special programs that happen, we will not be seeing those this spring, so we had some anticipated savings there. And then just in a few of our supply line items, our textbooks, our instructional materials, and our general supplies, we do not anticipate needing the same level of supplies that will be needed at the building. So we have savings in those three categories. And then finally, our daily substitutes. With no one in the buildings, we are not hiring day-to-day substitutes. So it's about an $80,000 savings for our daily substitutes. So you can see overall, we're looking at $291,000 in potential savings. And those are things that we can quantify. You know, there are other things that, you know, we anticipate potentially reduced trash and rubbish removal, say that 3 times fast, cost because we are not producing the same level of rubbish at this point in time. And then also some of our printing costs because we're not copying and printing out materials in the schools.
What are the June textbooks? Oh, sorry.
Feedback there.
Sorry, that's Joan.
So what was your question again?
June textbooks.
So I put those 3 categories in June because it was hard for me to break down over that 4-month period. So I just put the total amount, but there were some textbooks And then also instructional materials. Those are things that are purchased throughout the year for classrooms, like our Carolina Science unit. We had some things that we had anticipated purchasing. And so I just put them in one column because I could not break it down by month. Does that answer your question, Kelly?
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
Okay. So the next category I wanted to highlight was our food service and the financial impact. So we, because students are not in session, we are anticipating a loss of revenue. Students are not purchasing meals, and you can see that we've calculated out that revenue loss for the closure period to be $168,000. We are also continuing to pay our staff. So for the closure, that expense is $94,000. We are anticipating a deficit of approximately $157,000 in our food service budget because of those two contributing factors. A couple of other things to point out to you is that we do have negative lunch accounts. So those are lunch accounts where we still have money outstanding, and those are around $7,000. And then we will also be issuing 8th grade refunds to those students who are leaving Milliken and going up to Algonquin. We need to refund that money. So that is $3,900. We had already encumbered $50,000 in the budget for cafeteria services, anticipating a deficit in this line item. So we are going to be moving about $107,000 onto the budget because of this deficit in food services. One thing to point out is that any expenses right now that we are incurring as a result of the meals, the USDA has permitted us to receive reimbursement for those costs. So we do not anticipate seeing any expenses due to the food. It's all salaries right now. The next category I wanted to cover was the kindergarten revolving account. So just to give you an idea of what our projections were for at the beginning of the year, and then what our year-to-date actuals would be. So our beginning balance was $1,519. So we didn't start off the year with a huge amount of money. Our projections for tuition to be received were $411,000. Our annual expenses, those are salaries for our teachers and also for our support staff in the classroom. That is $344,655. So we had projected having an ending balance of approximately $68,000. What we have actually received year to date for our tuition revenue is $377,405. So you can see that we have tuition payments that are still outstanding of about $34,000. If we factor in all of these salaries and expenses, if we would still have a projected ending balance of $34,000. So we would still be to the good even with those tuition payments missing. So there are a few proposals on the table tonight that I wanted to share with you. So if we were to, I've outlined actually, I guess it's 5 different scenarios for the school committee to consider. If we were to refund 100% of the kindergarten tuitions, that would be a cost of $147,657.60.
Becky, can I ask a question? So when you talk about 100% reimbursement, that's 100% reimbursement, not of the full year, but of the closure.
Exactly. Sorry. Thank you for clarifying that for me. Yes, this is just for the closure. But it is a substantial amount because really we're looking at a third of the school year almost. So it would be $147,000, which would leave us our revolving fund with a negative balance of $113,000. and that money would have to come from the operational budget. So I've outlined 75% reimbursement, 50% reimbursement, 25 and a 10% reimbursement for the school committee to consider. We are continuing to pay our teachers and our staff from the revolving account. And so it would actually be our recommendation to refund 50% of kindergarten tuitions tonight. We do feel that the operational budget could support the $40,000 to pay for the salary caused by this deficit. And it's also in keeping with the tuition refund that we are going to be providing to our preschool students. So that would be my recommendation for the committee tonight. Are there any questions about kindergarten revolving?
Yeah, I have a question about, I guess, the current level of teaching going on in the kindergarten classrooms.
So the level of teaching that's occurring is actually at the same level that is happening at all grade levels. So the teachers are participating in the online learning opportunities, and they are being offered, at-home work that can be done. They're having Zoom meetings.
Yeah, they have the same expectations as all of our other educators in terms of Northborough Connect 2.0. So they are interacting with students on a regular basis and have a daily schedule and so forth.
Great, thank you.
I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Back on the kindergarten topic. Thank you. So if we have fixed overhead to provide the service and the service is consistent with the other grade levels, can I just get some more insight from the administration team on why 50% is the recommended refund? So in other words, why not even less than that? Or how did you get to the 50%? Obviously here we can see the numbers, but what else is behind this, if you would?
So Keith, I'll just add that originally, in terms of the conversations that we've had around what's fair in terms of the type of programming that's happening with all of our students, and also looking at parity between the conversation we had with our preschool tuition, and we talked about 50% and 25%. And the decision around 50% was really more around parity with our preschool reimbursement. In terms of programming, if the elementary principals want to talk about some of the work that the kindergarten teachers are doing with their students. Alana, do you want to start?
Sure. So kindergarten teachers, I've had the pleasure of attending some of their meetings and their lessons. So they're working with them on a daily basis, having daily Zoom meetings where they're presenting content to them, their social emotional connections. They're available, for office hours, and what they're, if students are struggling, they're available to support and assist. They're working together to record lessons that they're providing to students.
Yeah, I would agree at Z. They're doing the same thing, as well as we have service providers in the room. So special education is occurring, all student support, reading services, EL services, and they're creating a full day of whole group video lessons, live lessons, and small group lessons, as well as small activities that can be done at home.
And I'm also seeing them coordinating their teaching assistants to offer some activities and interact with the students. And then also they are doing social groups as well. So we have a couple of kindergarten teachers who are doing bingo and lunch bunches. So they have a very full multi-dimensional schedule.
Very similar for Lincoln Street School. All of the teachers at Lincoln Street School are using Google Classroom, including our kindergarten classrooms. So they're posting lessons each day. They're having online communication with the students. They've also called home to every family to check in with the students. And very similar to what everyone else said.
Thank you. I find that helpful. It's very clear that there's a lot of work going on. So that actually, that's where my question kind of came from, which is why 50% refund if the program's there, and also, we have our costs to provide, the service and programming. So I'm curious what my fellow committee members think about the difference between the 50% and the 25%. That looks like it was heavily weighed by administration.
Yeah, Keith, I think I had sort of similar thoughts to you because I know our kindergarten teachers are working very hard to provide this high level of learning for our students. I mean, I don't have any children of myself, but I just know of people who have younger children, and I've heard their challenges. As a middle school teacher myself, I know a lot of my students are extremely self-sufficient in their work, whereas I can imagine younger students need a lot of parental oversight in order to achieve, success in their daily lessons. So I'm wondering if perhaps that was a component in this decision for tuition. Sorry, what's the word? Going back to the
Refund.
families. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm between both you, Keith and Lauren. Like, I can see why. I mean, they are getting a lot of education. I mean, they're having, and my friends' kindergarten kids are having daily Zooms. My first grader's not even having daily Zooms. Like, every grade's different and everything. So, I mean, I definitely think there's lots of work going into it and everything. But at the same time, they paid for full day kindergarten, and they're not getting full day kindergarten. And so that's why I kind of go on Lauren's side in the sense that, I mean, it's expensive. And especially now that the kids aren't even at the school, parents can't be working. I mean, no parents are working anyways for the most part, but out of the home anyways. But so yeah.
Okay. You don't have a kindergartner right now, right, Kelly?
No, I have a first and second grader.
Okay.
But I've got friends with kindergartners who've been doing great.
So I just would pose to the committee too that, these ranges are arbitrary, in terms of it's a 50, 25, 10. It could be the will of the committee if it wanted to fall somewhere in between 25 and 50% as well.
So what's the dollar amount per family if they paid the full amount? What's the dollar amount they would be refunded?
The tuition for this year was $32.50. I'd have to, and I apologize, I don't have that number off the top of my head right now, and I should. So I can get that information though.
So it's a third though, right? So roughly it would be $32.50 divided by 11.
Sounds like around $500.
I have it on another screen, but I can't pull it up since I'm sharing my screen.
No, that's okay. So it's probably going to be about 50% would probably be about 500. Right.
So just another comment too that, we have our plan to move to tuition-free kindergarten, which is over a 4-year period. And we were excited prior to March that we were actually ahead of our revenue projections, which we're thinking we'd be able to accelerate moving to tuition-free kindergarten to 3 years. However, with with the pandemic and COVID-19, that has significantly changed, and our revenue outlook has significantly changed as well. So this will impact the speed at which we can move forward with full tuition-free full-day K.
My question to Greg and Becky, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm back on. I was wondering if you looked at the proposal of 40%, because the students were in from September through February. March was that we didn't know what was going on. So they had 6 months of schooling and really 4 months of the virtual learning. Have you entertained looking at a 40%?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the conversations that Becky and I have had, Becky, correct me if I'm wrong, we were really between 25% and 50%. That was our range. We felt like any percentage within that range would be fair. And then our latest conversation really was around the preschool refund that we looked at and tried to give it some parity to what was happening with the preschool.
The
But it
only
is
thing,
different.
yeah, I mean, the preschool has a larger savings account, I believe, right? They have a larger bank to fall back on, versus the kindergarten doesn't. Their bank is our funding, is the 1 through 8. Could we propose maybe like $100 a month type thing? I don't know. So it's like $400 versus like $500, like depending on what the numbers break down. I don't know.
I mean, I think my preference would be to land on a percentage, so we could do the math and do the refunds. The other conversation that I think is important to state is really that many of our families may be experiencing financial hardships, and this money could help support a family who is experiencing hardship at this time.
I have been contacted by a few families asking about the status and whether they will receive a refund.
I would propose doing a 40% because that takes care of when the children were not in school, which is, though they had maybe 2 weeks in March, that would be March, April, May, and June. So that would be prorated equally between the time they spent in school and they didn't. And I agree that the families are having hard times and we're helping out as much as we can. And I would like to see some of the tuition refunded, but I would propose that we do it at 40%.
So do we need a motion on this? Is that what we're looking for, a vote on this?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion and see how it goes. Greg and Becky, would you guys feel comfortable with that? I know you said somewhere between 50 and 25.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to make the motion that we reimburse 40% of kindergarten tuitions, which will take care of the months of not in school from March, April, May, and June for the school year of 2019-2020 for the kindergarten parents.
Can we
ask a
clarify that that's 40% during the time period from when we shut down through the end of the year, correct?
Correct. So I'll amend my motion to make that more specific.
I will second that amended motion.
So just to clarify what Keith was just talking about, so that 40% is of the tuition that families would have paid during the closure, 40% would be reimbursed, correct? Okay.
Yeah, so in other words, you prorate it, you take that time basis and then you do the 40% from there.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what's the big difference between 40% and 50%? I guess my hesitation would be families who have preschoolers versus kindergartners. I don't know if that would lead to any hard feelings. I don't know what the relationship is between the preschool and our K through 12 schooling.
Or could you speak to the service levels between the preschool and the kindergarten classes?
And Marie can speak to preschool probably better than I could, but I will just share that the preschool is a very different experience. We do have half-day kindergarten program in our district, so which is a half-day tuition-free program, which we're required by law. So what families are paying for a full day is the other half of the day. In preschool, they're paying for the entire preschool experience. Unless a student is receiving services from the student support team or special education, then there is no tuition. So it's a little bit different because parents still have options in terms of kindergarten and attending a half-day program, and preschool parents who students do not receive special education services pay for the entire day or entire program.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
And I could just share what the refund would be to families. For 50%, it would be $533. At 40%, it would be $426.75.
Thank you. I feel ready for roll call if anyone else is.
Is there any other conversation, or we have a motion on the table by Joan that it is 40% of the closure period reimbursed to families, with Keith seconded.
Actually, I have a follow-up question. Something that I haven't asked yet. So so we have children who are not in the full day program, correct?
Yes, I think it's under, I don't have the exact number, but it's a small number of students. I believe it's under 10, and elementary principals can probably give me the exact number of half-day
It's
kids.
under 10.
So my question would be, is there any difference between the instruction being provided to the half-day kindergartners and the full-day kindergartners at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I would ask the principals to respond to that question.
At Z, they're taking full part in the lessons that are occurring with all the other students.
Yeah, same for Proctor as well.
And Lincoln.
Yeah, and Peasley as well.
So does that mean no difference?
No difference.
No difference.
No difference.
We didn't exclude them.
Yeah, one of the things I was just talking with a parent that can't be online, and one of the things they were saying is that if they're paying but they're not getting anything extra, is that fair?
Well, the challenge is this, is that we have a certain number of staff.
Oh, no. I'm just devil's advocate. I'm throwing it out there. I said we need to cut the numbers. So
Yeah. I think the argument would be that we predicated our staffing levels based on a number of students participating in the full day programs, and therefore we've made commitments to those staff members, and they are doing work behind the scenes. It's whether there's an appreciable, I think there's the same opportunity for the half day and full day kids, just because of the nature of this remote learning, this Ennisboro Connect 2.0. And, I think that's just a reality at this point in time.
Yeah, that's where I was coming full circle with that, Greg. So I agree with you. We had to, staff up and create the programming, and we got through a good portion of the year under those assumptions and with those circumstances. So basically the ask is, we have all this staff available and participating now remotely, and we built these programs under under that structure, and so here we are. And so we're basically asking them to just like we are, kind of, get us through the end of the year, while still making some concessions that, it's not exactly what they paid for. And so hence the refund. So I think you summarized it well there.
Becky, quickly, for the 40%, do you know what the bottom line would be, the deficit would be?
I can do that calculation quickly.
Becky's good like that.
Let me get my calculator out here.
Maybe about 29.
40%, yeah. So 40%, we'd be looking at $59,063.84 in refunds. And I'm just gonna go back to the,
It's about 29, $30,000.
yeah, yep.
I don't have any
Yeah.
more questions or comments.
Me either. I'm good.
I'm good too.
So the motion on the table for the 40% reduction over or reimbursement for the closure period only from Joan, seconded by Keith. If there's no further discussion, we can go ahead into a roll call vote for that motion. Joan,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
and me, yes. So that goes and passes. So we'll do 40%.
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
for the good work.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
Very much.
The next slide will be a little different because now our number's a little different, but I just wanted to show you the difference between the expenses ups and the savings for the COVID-19 expenses, the food service, and then the kindergarten revolving. So you can add about another 15,000 onto that bottom line. So about 93 to 95,000 would be what our net budget impact to the good would be for our savings. I think I mentioned this last week that we are continuing to negotiate with our vendors. Our special education transportation is through ABC, and they have actually reached an agreement with Vanpool at 77%. And then out of district special education residential programs, we are going to be working with some of those programs where they have closed their residential facility and the students have been sent home to negotiate down the amounts that we are paying to those facilities since they are not incurring those costs of housing the students. And then finally, you've probably seen this slide already. I was on a call today with DESE. They do anticipate having the amounts that the districts can expect to receive through the CARES Act. It will be a federal grant. We will need to apply for it. However, it will be similar to our entitlement grants, where once we make that application, we will be able to receive those grants. And the good thing is with that money, we have until FY22, actually, I think it's September of 2022 to spend the money that we receive. So it's something where we can be planful about it, given the uncertainty of our fiscal and our financial climate over the next couple of fiscal years. So those are just a couple of things that I wanted to share with the
I just comment too on that is not going to be a significant amount of money that the community of Northborough receives. So I think they're using Title I allocations as kind of a benchmark, and 80% of that, Becky, is that?
We're looking at about 25,000 probably.
So the nice thing though is that with grant money, typically there are restrictions of how we can use the funding. They are lifting all restrictions around how we can use the additional money through this grant to support our FY21 budget or FY22 budget.
And that's it for me. So I will give Greg back the control.
Oh, Becky, one question.
Yes.
Is there a possibility that you could send us a link to these slides so that we can have them? That would be very helpful as we go forward in any discussions with town.
Absolutely. Would you like me to update with the 40% so that you have that information?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Becky.
Thank you.
All right. So at this point in time, again, because we had the combined meeting last week and spent a lot of time talking about the work behind the scenes in terms of responding to COVID-19 health situation. I just wanted to open up to the committee to be able to ask the directors any questions that you might have outstanding from last meeting.
I have one question.
Go
It's
ahead.
related to the food service program. So, and Becky just had the slides up. It looks to me like, based on the fact that we had to encumber 50,000 for that program out of the operational budget, it's not a self-sustaining program already, correct?
That is correct.
And now, of course, this kind of has exacerbated the situation there. So my question is, are we going to be evaluating that program a bit moving into next year? Because I know there was already discussion about pricing of lunches and some tracking of participation rates. So my question is whether that's going to go under review so that we can get that program close to self-sustaining, or continue the work we were doing on getting that to not run in the red for us.
So absolutely, we have looked very closely at trying to be more efficient with our costs. We've looked closely at our employment costs and trying to limit the number of overtime hours and so forth. But we, and that's part of Keith Lavoie's roles and responsibilities, is to work closely with the food service department to make sure that it is a self-sustaining program. I'll just give you an idea of what we're learning. We did discover that actually 2 of our schools are kitchens and transport food to other schools. The transportation cost alone to deliver food to our other satellite schools is significant. Becky, I believe it's a little under $30,000 approximately. So we're looking at a more cost-effective way to transport food to our schools, because it should not cost us $30,000.
That's usually what it costs, you're saying?
Per year, yes.
Okay.
We have historically run in a deficit in our food services program in Northborough. I know for the last 3 to 5 years, and now that we have a director of operations, one of the priority tasks that Mr. Lavoie have will be to try to make sure it is a self-sustaining program. And that's done through quality programming, quality food, increasing participation, controlling costs. Keith, I'm not sure if you would like to speak to that.
Yeah, I would, absolutely. I think, working with the food services department, and even going through the pandemic as we are now, we are uncovering, places where we can be more efficient. Certainly through our procurement processes and things like that, we could utilize resources differently and be a little more diverse and selective with how we do it. We're also, this COVID thing is certainly not helping the bottom line, but it is helping my understanding of how things are operating really on a fundamental level, and starting some good conversations about how to make things more efficient is definitely at the top of the list. I don't know if I have a magic wand to bring down that transportation cost right off the bat, but that is definitely something at the top of the list to see what options are available. And we're currently researching other districts to see how they do it, and see if we can find a more efficient way. And Becky and we just had conversations with our food services managers to make sure that we're sharing the expertise of all of them, so that we can benefit from each other. So we have started that process. Becky, do you want to add anything more about yesterday's meeting?
No, I thought it was like Keith said, we're sharing ideas. We're making sure that the procurement is being followed, that we're really thinking ahead to next year about, okay, where do we need to sharpen our pencils and go out to bid, and looking at just different and more creative ways to provide these services. I've I've done some outreach to some of my fellow business managers to try to see what other districts are doing, and we anticipate sharing that back with the group.
Becky, through the chair, Sue, may I ask a question?
Good.
What two school, Greg, you were saying that we transport food to the other schools from 2 school kitchens. What schools are those that prepare the food?
So we have, I think it's Proctor, Peasley is a cooking school, and Melican
Correct.
and Lincoln.
Oh, so we have, okay, and do they divvy it up, or is one school designated to go to Proctor?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
That's
So-
interesting. I thought it was all just coming out of Melican. So it's only 2 schools that are getting it delivered then.
Correct.
Correct.
For 30,000, that's a lot.
Yep.
So any other questions for Mary Ellen or Rhoda?
I want to say Happy Nurses Day to Mary Ellen. Thank you for all your hard work. I don't know if she's still there.
She's muted.
She said thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't find myself. I was signing to you, Kelly. Thank you.
And
We had
also,
a great day.
give the thanks that Kelly gave to you, to all the other nurses, and especially the ones that are on the school buses delivering the lunches and making that facial contact, familiar contact with the students.
Oh, yes, we had a great day today. There was lots of signs made from all the kids. Keith had
Oh,
sent that
that's sweet.
email. People made signs. Greg made them a video. It was awesome.
Yeah, I have to say, I was able to get dozens of pictures of the different signs, and even the gifts that were given to our nurses and bus drivers today. And it really was uplifting to see the kids. The parents are so grateful. The streams of appreciation continue to come in, and certainly thanks to Mary Ellen and the team. I think having that touch of the nurses being the ones delivering has really made a ton of difference, for the communities. So I am seeing it from both Northborough and Southborough, but today was certainly a special day, and we have a lot to be thankful for in that regard. That's for sure.
Yeah, they really are part of our essential services.
I agree.
Definitely. So please give our thanks to everybody involved.
Will do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great. So we're moving on to the next agenda item. Legislative update.
So just a quick update on the fiscal 21 budget landscape. We still have many unknown variables, and we're still waiting for more guidance from Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, as well as the state. And as I mentioned at the combined meeting, that the budget process is taking a different turn. The governor's budget that he released in late January, they've gone back to the drawing board and are waiting for better revenue projections. And there are estimated challenges in the upcoming fiscal year 21 budget at the state level, as well as the town level, working closely with John Kader, the town administrator, listening to what he's projecting in terms of revenue. We're preparing to look at our FY21 budget and potentially make some reductions, and that's later on in the agenda. The second thing I just wanted to mention is that Becky mentioned our out-of-district costs, and we do have students who attend out-of-district programs who have returned home because of the COVID-19 health situation. And we're looking at working collaboratively with surrounding districts and communities throughout the Commonwealth to petition to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to see some of those tuition reimbursements come back to the local communities. Becky, I don't know if you want to speak a little more about that work.
Certainly. So the there is a group of business managers who have been collaborating on this process. For those of you who are not familiar, OSD actually sets the rates that school districts do pay for these out-of-district tuitions. And those are set by statute. And so the guidance that we've been receiving from the state is that we are expected to pay the full tuitions on these students, regardless of the level of service that is being provided. And so this group has worked collaboratively to compose a letter that would be sent to both DESE and to OSD requesting relief from these mandated payments. And so that is something that has just been finalized over the past 24 hours. And there is a large group of school districts who will be signing on, and that would include superintendents, directors of student support services, school committee members. It could be town managers that are signing on to these letters to forward them so that we can show and force, the need for this to be revisited. The fear is that because of the closures, that next year we could see increased special education costs because of the services that may not be provided during this closure. And so we feel that it's unfair that we should be paying full price at this point in time if the students are not getting the services that they need, and then also be required to pay additional in the coming fiscal year.
So I did provide the letter to the chairperson this morning. Actually, we'll send it via DocuSign for the chair to sign. And we are also asking our partner communities, the region and Southborough, to sign the same letter again to show, enforce, our wishes in terms of moving forward. And that is it for legislative updates.
Any questions, comments, or discussion?
Thank you
And
for
like
doing that.
Like Grace said, he sent the letter this morning. It looks good. It makes sense for us to do what we can to advocate for the district and sign that letter. And Greg, you said you just wanted the chairs to sign it. Do you think it's something you'd want more signatures and less, or the chairs are sufficient?
I think the chairs in this current climate is sufficient, and Becky and I will also sign the document.
Okay. And we can go ahead and share that once it's all signed to all the members so they can see it as well. So we'll go ahead and move on to our next agenda item, the school choice vote.
So again, if it's the will of the committee to participate in school choice, no vote is required. However, if the school committee wishes to withdraw from the school choice program, a vote will need to be taken.
Do you have the language for the motion for that if we wish to withdraw?
So I think the motion would be fairly simple to a motion to for the Northborough Southborough Public Schools to withdraw from the school choice program for the 2021 academic year.
So moved.
Thank you, Joan.
Seconded.
Is there any further discussion on school choice?
Yeah, I definitely support the withdrawal at this point. In reading over all of the information, thank you for those of you who put that information together. I think that, further conversation in further years would be probably something to put on the table, and perhaps, I don't know if we need a subcommittee to think about this, but due to potential decline in enrollments, this may be an option to think about in the future.
I agree, Lauren.
Okay, so that is something to think about. I don't necessarily agree with that point of view in that the finances just don't work out in general when you only get 5,000 when you pay 17,000 per student, even with declining enrollments. But definitely if that's something up for discussion further down the road, that sounds fine to me. So we can, any further comments, or we can go ahead with the roll call vote? So I have Joan that motion that we withdraw from school choice for the 2021 school year. And Keith seconded. Roll call, I vote yes. Joan,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Lauren.
Yes.
I think I said yes, so that motion passes, that we'll withdraw from school choice for the next school year. So the next item on our agenda is the ratification of agreement with the Northborough Teachers Association.
Sure, I'm pleased to share that the Northborough Teachers Association and the Northborough School Committee have reached a collective bargaining agreement. The negotiations, as you know, began in early January and were finalized in late February. The agreement terms reached include a fair compensation package, some tuition reimbursement increases, and language that provides additional clarity to the agreement. And I just want to thank the partnership with the associations. It was a very collaborative effort, and I feel like we have a excellent collective bargaining agreement moving forward.
Did we have any?
Do we need to make a motion to vote or
Yes.
just, is it a roll call vote?
No, we have to make a motion.
Do you have the language for that motion, or
Yeah,
I do.
you
Oh.
have it? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we approve the collective bargaining agreement, parentheses, capital letters CBA, and a parentheses between the Northborough School Committee and the Northborough Teachers Association, parentheses, capital letters NTA, and a parentheses from fiscal year 2021 to the fiscal year 2023.
Okay.
Seconded.
So we have a motion by Joan, seconded by Keith. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote.
I have a
Keith?
comment,
Oh, sorry.
if I
You have a
may.
comment? Yes.
I just would like to underscore as well how well the IBB process went, and I know a lot of preparation went into that through central office. Greg, Heather's work, and all the planning that went into it, and the goodwill that was brought by all parties was very, very helpful in making it a very productive and efficient process. So I want to thank everybody involved.
I agree, Keith. I was my first experience. I heard horror stories about previous experiences, so I didn't know what to expect, but Lois really did a great job leading us all. And I think both parties were very pleased with the results. So.
And I'd like to commend the administration and the Northborough Teachers Association for the collaboration and cooperation in working together for the best outcomes with the students, and looking forward to continuing that throughout this contract.
I agree. Thank you for your comments. We'll go ahead and move ahead with the roll call vote. We have Joan,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes.
and Susan. Yes. Motion passes. So the next item on the agenda, we discussion of 2021 school committee location and time.
So this is a continuation of a conversation that we began. I think we've had this a couple of times as a committee to really think about the setup and location of our monthly school committee meetings, and whether Melican, the current setup at Melican, is the best setup, and if it makes sense to move the school committee meeting to another location or building more suitable for the committee and presentations and so forth. And really, this would be in preparation for the next academic year, so in the fall of 2020. If the committee did decide to change the location or a time of meetings, this would allow us plenty of time to communicate the changes to the community so they can prepare and know what the changes are, and attend future meetings.
I would like to see them at Lincoln Street half hour earlier.
Greg, what location could it be at Lincoln Street? Would it take care of the audience members? Is there a room that would be great for the conferencing, the video conferencing, at the same time that the audience that are there can hear us? Because I know that's one of the drawbacks is sometimes the audience can't hear us discussing.
So my recommendation, and I've had conversations with Principal Wright, is looking at the library. That would be the most ideal situation. There's space, there's technology, and we could create a setup that actually makes sure the school committee members don't have to move when watching a presentation, which would be nice.
And there wasn't the ability to have us reset up Melican to have that type of setup. You think it would still be best at Lincoln Street as opposed to exploring Melican options?
My only comment about Melican, and Melican's been a great host, thank you, Michelle, is just it is the temperature and the climate of some of our meetings in September and October and at the end of the year. It's almost unbearable at times. So in terms of climate, Lincoln Street School is the best school for, they have conditioned air, not air conditioned, but conditioned air. So it's much more comfortable in terms of a setting.
Greg, does that school already have a nighttime janitorial staff to break down the room and get it back into the students? Just when our meeting is done at Melican, the janitors are there, the custodial staff is there right away to get the room set up for the students. So do we have to have more time for the custodians, or is that already in place?
No, we could, they have a night custodian who could take on that responsibility.
Okay. So there wouldn't be any further cost to us? Okay.
No.
So besides location, I'd like to bring Kelly's point about moving the time as well. So Kelly, you recommended moving it 30 minutes earlier. I would support that. I know that we all have long days, but I was curious about what the rest of the committee was thinking.
I think it was also depend on people's commutes and how they come and get to the meeting. Sometimes I think maybe moving earlier might be a problem for some people that are working later. That's usually why it's later in the evening. So people have more ample time to get home from their commute and make that transition than to get back out to a meeting. So there is that to consider as well.
Me personally, I'm okay with 6:30. I'm probably one of the longer commuters. I would have some concerns about 6.
I'm okay with 6:30. I was wondering about the administration. How does that feel with them in their other duties? I mean, is it better if for the administration if they start at 6:30?
Principals, do you want to share your preference?
I'll speak up. I would love it if it was at 6:30 because, as you said, Joan, the days are very long, so we are waiting for the meeting. So 6:30 would be better from my perspective.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with Michelle as well.
I agree as well.
Same with me.
Well, I think if we can get the administration home sooner, because it seems like by the time you leave, sometimes you're just going home, put your head on the pillow and you're back there right away. So if it gives you more family time, I feel very comfortable with the 6:30 time.
No, Southborough currently, I believe, has their meetings at 6:30, if I read correctly. Greg, do you know if that time is working well and how long they've had that time?
So I know that, and Keith can speak to the history in Southborough, but since I've been here, this is my 6th year in the district. The meeting schedule has been at 6:30 for school committee meetings in Southborough.
Honestly,
And it
Lauren, the
worked well.
6:30 seems to be the sweet spot. We've been at 7. We were at 6 for a little while, but 6:30 I think has really worked. There are people that are coming in, right from work on occasion, but collectively and certainly from administration, I think the 6:30 start has been appreciated.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
And what about NCAT? I know you were going to follow up with them.
Yeah, so they can accommodate the 6:30 time as well as any move that we would make to a different school. They did not see any issues with a change.
I would then put forth the recommendation to move our meetings for the academic year 2020 to 2021 to start at 6:30 p.m. instead, and then also be housed at the Lincoln Street School. I don't know if we need an official motion. That's my recommendation.
Sure, we'll go ahead and take your motion for that. Did we need to do anything around surrounding notifications with the town?
No, I mean, I think it's under the purview of the school committee, but obviously we would let the town administrator know the meeting time change and the location change, and also the town clerk as well. Moving forward, the primary reason why it's on the agenda is because Cheryl Lepre, the executive administrator, is working on the meeting calendars for next year and wants to get that out and publish the date and time and location of the meetings.
I
Will
have
we
a question. I have a question. Would we be able to have a live feed
Yes.
from that location? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
And will we be able to advertise this location and date change much like we did for the town voting?
Absolutely. We can put it, would be happy to put it in upcoming newsletters and send out some communications over the summer in preparation for the first school committee meeting.
So Lauren motioned, but I did not hear a second.
Second.
Don't beat you to it. I heard her first.
Oh, you can take it.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Okay, we'll go ahead with a roll call. Kelly,
Yes.
Joan,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
and me. Yes, the motion passes.
And again, a thanks to Michelle for so generously hosting for so many years.
I'm sad I won't be able to visit your dog before our meetings anymore.
She'll probably be in my car, Lauren, so you can see her on your way in.
Okay, good.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll move on to the superintendent's report to the committee.
Sure. So we have the monthly enrollments in your packet, so no significant variables. We are monitoring kindergarten closely, but again, at this time, it's within our projections. Any questions around enrollments? Next in your packet is the FY20 monthly general fund expenditure report, and I'll have Becky give a brief overview of the expenditure report.
Keep doing that, sorry. So as you can see with the monthly general fund report, that we have been busy reviewing all expenditures and making appropriate adjustments due to the closure. Our budget remains frozen at this time. And our bottom line currently is we have $501,672 or 2.01% remaining on the bottom line of our budget. We do anticipate seeing some changes as we look at the food services that we discussed tonight, and then also in making the adjustment for the transportation based on the new MOA that was just signed the past couple days.
All right, next in your packet.
Do we have to take a
Good
vote? Greg?
motion.
Yes, you do.
I move that We accept until audited the Northborough Public School District FY 2020 budget monthly general fund expenditure report as of April 30th, 2020.
I'll second.
All right, Lauren seconds. We'll go ahead with the roll call vote. Joan,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes.
and me, yes. Motion passes.
So next in your packet is the FY21 budget calendar, and we still have a key date for the budget, which is the town meeting. So I believe that the new date is June 27th. So more information about the town meeting will be provided. Also in your packet is the FY21 school committee approved budget discussion, and the operational budget subcommittee met earlier this week to really revisit the budget, the FY21 school committee voted budget. Over the past couple weeks, principals and the leadership team and I have spent a lot of time re-examining the budgets and thinking about different potential scenarios depending on the COVID-19 financial impact. We're looking at potential scenarios, and if we were asked to make reductions to our budgets, what that would look like. The operational budget subcommittee did make a recommendation to amend the budget to a 1% increase, and the leadership team, principals, and I will be looking at those reductions to see what impact it would have on programming. The goal is to schedule a special school committee meeting to present an amended budget to the committee, and then eventually provide an opportunity for public comment and feedback. So a lot of work is happening behind the scenes. We are anticipating a significant impact to our FY21 budget due to the COVID-19 health situation, and we're trying to mitigate any impacts to staffing, programming, and limit the impacts to our students.
Greg, when these potential changes are in place, would we then need to meet with the Northborough Appropriations Committee yet again?
So I've been working very closely with John Kadera, the town administrator, and one of the things we're discussing is what that would look like. Technically, we've met with the committee has met with appropriations, and most likely we would not need to revisit our budget with the appropriation committee.
Thank you.
So if anything were to be revised, then at town meeting, it would still, they're not reprinting anything or changing the warrant itself. It would be changed on the floor or presented at the time, or is it going to change the warrant?
I think the warrant articles would be changed to reflect the budget.
Okay.
So the next step would be, again, for the leadership team to continue its work around looking at the impact of a 1% budget increase, and then coming back to the committee and presenting what that would look like and what that impact would be. And that is my superintendent's report to the committee.
Any further questions or discussion on any one of those items? Okay, sounds good. We'll look forward to another meeting about the budget later on in the month.
Yes.
So
yes.
So I just had one question on the budget calendar. It says here that the town meeting is 5/24, which would be May 5/27. So the town meeting right now has been extended to May 27th, and they can extend it for another 30 days if necessary, in 30-day increments.
Correct.
Okay.
So I think the last, the town moderator extended it to May 27th and can extend it in 30-day increments.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe I'm not sure if that extension has been made already, but I think it happened in the past couple of days potentially. But from my conversations with John Kader, it looks like June 27th will be the date.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
So the one posted on the website for May 27th might not be what it is right now if they've had meetings that we haven't been.
Potentially, and I can follow up with John in the morning to get an actual date.
Okay. Thank you.
So moving forward, educational policy, we have none at this time. And policy development and distribution, we have 3 distribution of policies in our packets that were previously approved. Audience sharing, do we still have that capability to do that with I know with the public hearing, we had options of audience somewhere, but I don't think we have, do we have?
We have 0 attendees.
Gotcha, okay, thank you. Is there any other sharing that anybody would like to make at this time?
I'll share on behalf of NSBAC. They usually have their Going the Distance award ceremony, which they couldn't have. So they are remotely sending out the certificates of to the recipients. And so the central office is helping send them all out. And for a list of the recipients, you can get that on their website. So it's a great award ceremony. It's a great recognition time. So it's sad that it had to get canceled again this year. But
I'd like to share that this past Friday, May 1st, was Principal's Day. So
I know, and I forgot it. I felt so horrible. Sorry, Alana.
Take a minute and acknowledge the great work our principals do. So and thank them. Also, this week is Teachers Appreciation Week. I'm not sure why principals get a day and teachers get a week. So that's cool. And
Where's Superintendent Day?
Right. Every day of the year. And then lastly, as Kelly mentioned, today is Nurses Day. So again, acknowledge our principals, our educators, our nurses for all the great work that they do. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo that. I've seen so many of you principals on videos reading books to your students and doing morning announcements. And I think that keeping that school community alive during this time when we can't be physically together is so important. So just thanks to all the educators who are really working around the clock to support our students during this pandemic. So thanks to everyone.
I'd also like to ditto those comments and congratulations to the administration, the staff, the nurses, and all essential people that work, because you have had to make a paradigm shift immediately, going from having schools open and having learning being one-to-one and face-to-face, and then all of a sudden having to make a shift. And anytime in education, when you make a shift, if it's a reading program, if it's a math program, you always have some kind of training to be prepared for it and to be ready. And you guys didn't have any time really to do any preparing, but taking off of your free time to do this. So I think that you have made that paradigm shift and made it very successful. And I know the teachers are working hard as they can, and I know the administration is too, and that's why it's so successful. So thank you to everybody from the top to the bottom for everything that you've done to make this continues to be a great district.
I have a specific shout out to the Melican team, Mrs. Getchell, and the other staff running the musical. Olaf has been practicing the last few days here in my household, because they're going to put some portions of the play on a video that kids are submitting. So just gives these little quarantined musicians and actors an opportunity to stay in touch with that and have some purpose there and discipline with practice. And they've also, I think, given them some hope for potentially putting on the show in the future. So obviously it's pretty heartbreaking to have something that was just a few weeks from going live and on stage and all the work that went into it, pulled out from under you. So that's much appreciated.
Great. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so we'll move ahead with we have personnel items, distribution of personnel report.
I have a question about resignations and more so for like retirements for teachers who are retiring. Is stuff usually done for the end of year retirements for teachers and stuff? Is things gonna not be happening now because they were not together anymore? Things like that. I just it was talking, one of our longtime teachers at Proctor's leaving, or aides, and she she also does the crossing guard and things like that. And so, she touches a lot of families in the Proctor neighborhood. So we're just wondering about how the process, if anybody's thinking about it. I don't even know how many retirees altogether we have this year or not.
I'll just comment that in a typical year, it's usually a pretty large celebration and usually organized by our schools. And it's a great opportunity to celebrate a person's career. And it's done with great fanfare. And I would say it's usually led by the building principals in partnership with faculty and staff. I honestly, and maybe I'm wrong, can share that we've not really had time to think about what that might look like. But I can guarantee you that our principals and faculty and staff will, at some point in time, really celebrate those faculty and staff who are retiring. It might not be until the fall. We'll have to invite some people back, or it might be virtual. I'm confident that in the best way we can, we'll acknowledge and celebrate those folks who are retiring after a long, successful career. And principals, feel free to chime in if you have other plans that I'm not aware of.
So Kelly, I can share with you that we're planning something for the students for that staff member, because I agree she's been a long-standing figure, and particularly out as crossing guard, she's helped and supported a lot of families. So there's something for that, and then a later date our staff will celebrate her.
Great.
Yeah, and the same thing at Peasley. Mrs. Marsha Waldman, who is our art teacher, is retiring after many years. So she was a spotlight in our weekly announcements, and we dedicated quite a large portion of that time, as well as I know the PTO is purchasing a gift for her. And then we will celebrate when we can physically get together, whenever that is.
Yeah, Z plans on it. We have two big retirements. Well, one retirement and one staff member that will be leaving. So we are making plans to celebrate them.
So when we have one resignation, Alan Phelps.
Yes.
So that is an outstanding music educator for our district who earned his doctorate or is still in the process of pursuing his doctorate.
Still in the process of pursuing his doctorate.
And is going to be working at the collegiate level next year. So he'll be sorely missed. He's renowned in our district and with our students in the plays and the musicals, so he'll be missed.
Moving on, we have communications. We have none at this time. And then our future agenda items, which will be election of officers, election of superintendency union number 3 members, and retained executive session minutes.
Those future agenda items, election of officers and number 2, the election, that can take place until after the election, which is taking place on June 30th, which is a Tuesday, because we won't have,
right, in the future.
So, checking with Andy Dowd, he said everybody stays in their current position until that election night. So we could not have those in June. We'd have to have after the election, June 30th, and that's when we'd have to do it, because we'll be getting 1 new member on, maybe 2, depending upon my renomination. So would we have to do, nothing is ever certain. Would we have to then do a special meeting in July?
So potentially, Joan, I wonder if we can ask Andy if we could still move forward with election of officers, even without, because we still have a quorum, right? So I was just curious to see if we could.
Do you want me to talk to him tomorrow before 12 noon?
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we could have it, and then if something changes, then if for some reason, Joan, you're not, you know.
No. Okay, I'll check with Andy Dowd tomorrow to see what he says. Okay, and then he could check into the legality. And once I hear back, I'll send it to Susan and Greg, and then you can forward it on. Okay.
Thank you.
There's approvals of bills and payrolls, and then any other business which may legally come before the committee. The next scheduled school committee meeting date is Wednesday, June 3rd, and combined is Wednesday, June 17th. So,
Before I make my motion to adjourn the meeting, I'd like to thank everyone for your indulgence when my internet here at home was going out, and I had my in-house technology guy who solved the problem. But thank you very much, Kelly. Thank you for reaching out, and Keith and everybody else. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So I had the continuity. So I would like to make the motion that we adjourn the Northborough School Committee open meeting of Wednesday, May 6, 2020.
okay. So
Second.
who is it? Keith. All right. Roll call to adjourn. Joan,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
and me. Yes. So meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.